Hello, fellow humans. My name is Vlad Bunea, and this is Economy for Life. Today, we will talk about radical abundance. Last week, I talked about sufficiency, which is a moral ethic about living life with just enough stuff to cover your needs. It may be a shocker, but radical abundance means almost the same thing. Radical abundance is also about the lifestyle without material excesses and living simply while also having all needs covered. This idea cannot be farther from what capitalism stands for. There are many ways to understand abundance, from which I will pick two. One of them is promoted by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson with their book called Abundance, and the opposing view comes from Kai Heron, Keir Milburn, and Bertie Russell with their book Radical Abundance: How to Win a Green Democratic Future. Klein and Thompson advocate for business as usual, more capitalism, but for more people. I don't want to waste my time and yours on Klein and Thompson. They deserve ridicule, but not attention. I'd like to discuss a positive approach to abundance. Radical abundance is the antithesis of bullshit abundance. It's the product of society organized not to realize profits for the capitalist, rentier, and asset holding classes, but to maximize the capacity for human and non-human life to flourish. Bullshit abundance is a world where we have too much of what we don't need and too little of what we do. We live with bullshit abundance not because we choose, but because the economic system is designed to create this kind of abundance. When the maximization of profit is completely disconnected from the satisfaction of needs, we end up with an economy that produces useless stuff just to keep going. Radical abundance looks at the satisfaction of needs completely differently. It is worth quoting in length what the authors have to say. Imagine for a moment a workplace where the workers and not their bosses determine what is produced and how. Together, workers make decisions about how many hours a week they work, who does what in the division of labor, and how to maintain or improve the technologies they need. This workplace, whether it's a factory, power plant, farm, or bakery, is worker-owned, but it remains under the influence of capital's metabolic control. It must still produce a profit to reproduce itself, which means that it continues to depend on the extraction of surplus labor from those who work there. But there's a major difference. Whereas in an entirely capitalist workplace, these profits are appropriated by a capitalist owner, and whereas in a cooperative, profits are shared equally among the workers themselves. In a public common partnership, PCP, the profits are handed to a separate democratic organ, a common association, which decides what to do with the surpluses generated. Members of this common association include anyone and everyone with an interest in that workplace and what it produces. And since it is they who get to decide what is done with the surplus, it isn't just the workplace's workers who benefit from the fruits of their labor. Rather, it is as many of the people as possible that have helped to reproduce the workers' ability to work at all. The public common partnerships are a great example of how the design of capitalism can be challenged and how the model for a new economy can be started. In this model, the forces that bind together property, power, and capital are weakened and replaced by a much more nuanced design of economic enterprises. Public common partnerships actually exist in real life. This is a model of a PCP that exists in North London. It's called Ward's Corner Community Benefit Society. This model distributes the ownership of land, buildings, and small businesses across many organizations that are all members in a benefit society that does not have the maximization of profit at its core objective. Its objective is to benefit society, more specifically to maintain a thriving local community where small businesses exist to serve the needs of the community. If the aim of public common partnerships is to cover the needs of everyone living in the community, then their operations are aligned with ethics of sufficiency. The additional pieces are in a larger social context, where we need to zoom out a little bit to understand how this community fits with the rest of the world. Since no community can fully exist in total isolation from the rest of the world, radical abundance for everyone can only be reached when each community accepts that its activities must respect the rights of all other communities to reach levels of sufficiency that I discussed last week. We all live within the same planetary boundaries. Even public common partnerships need to operate with close to zero carbon emissions and with a low material footprint. Since radical abundance is about increasing the capacity for human and non human life to flourish, this can happen if, and only if, all economic activity is within planetary boundaries, or what researchers at the Stockholm Resilience Center call a safe and just operating space for humanity. Radical abundance is a philosophical partner to the idea of sufficiency. To get there, the state must support the formation of PCPs by suppressing the creation of capitalist corporations and expanding community benefit societies, which were introduced in the UK in 2014 by the Cooperative and Community Benefit Societies Act. Community benefit societies provide a model of ownership in which the use of assets or a business, industry, or trade must be conducted for the benefit of the community. Of course, as long as bullshit abundance is promoted more than radical abundance, the transition away from a wasteful economic system remains very challenging. When I criticize capitalism, I have in mind an alternative which I call the economy for life. Both sufficiency and radical abundance are part of this new economy. The principles for the economy for life, which I will be discussing on this channel, aim to keep humans in the green space for decent, equitable, and just living. The bottom line is that all humans must be there in order to maintain the fragile balance of life for as long as possible. This means no human should fall outside the green space, not below and not above. Having humans that are too rich or too poor is unacceptable and incompatible with radical abundance and sufficiency. This leads us to very difficult conversations that we have no choice but to have with ourselves and with those around us. Do we accept to have humans that are too rich and that are too poor? Do we accept to have humans whose lifestyles cause complete destruction for the entire planet and cause miserable lives for billions others? Do we really want to see life flourish deep into the future? To get to radical abundance and sufficiency for everyone, these difficult conversations should contain, at the bare minimum, ideas such as degrowth, limits, rationing, freedom, emancipation, economic democracy. All these ideas help us define our place in the safe and just operating space. Even if we converted all corporations to PCPs, if we maintained the class of super rich humans, which is everyone with wealth over $5 million, according to my interpretation, or if we maintain high carbon emissions or a high use of materials over 5 to 7 tons per person per year, or use energy more than 2000 watts per person, even then we would not have all humans in the green space. Changing the habits of the super rich class is super urgent. The super rich must be abolished as a class. Most people are decent people and do not crave enormous houses and many possessions. The book Material World, A Global Family Portrait, published in 1994, shows families around the world photographed next to all their possessions that could be moved. Families from poorer countries had few possessions and craved little more, such as few more tools for gardening. Families from richer countries had significantly more possessions and craved much more. Let's look at some of these families with some nice music in the background. In 2026, we are in a much worse situation. Mountains of garbage with discarded clothes are piling up in poor countries. Humans in the rich countries continue to overconsume like it's a mental illness. Poor humans continue to be poor exactly as they were 30 or 40 years ago. We can wonder if there's a law of human nature that when you own more, you will want to own even more, or maybe it's just a simple habit of accumulation. In any case, this psychology is on a certain path to cause the extinction of life on Earth. Blaming people for how they live does not get us anywhere politically. I do not think we have a choice in how we live, but we can be held accountable if we cause harm to others. Causing harm to others is facilitated by the economic system we have at the moment. We do have a duty to the quality of our own lives to stop supporting capitalism if we want to get to radical abundance. This is not just about eating much less meat, or not taking trips by flying, or buying electric cars, or buying just enough things to cover our needs. It is so much more than this. I think that talking about personal habits of consumption is counterproductive. The focus should be almost entirely on dismantling capitalism and moving towards sufficiency and radical abundance. Abolishing excessive wealth and corresponding power must be a top priority. Thank you for supporting my research on Ko-fi and Patreon. Please like and subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Help us replace capitalism with an economy for life. Increase the peace.